So before we close out here, we want to talk a little bit about the call to action. And we said that from the beginning. Dr. Fernie talked about, we're not here just to be performative, right? We're here to take action. And for some of us, I know that can be a little bit scary. What does it mean for me to step into a place where maybe I'm not used to taking the action, I'm not used to speaking in front of people, or I'm not used to stepping into a new place where maybe you don't feel comfortable. So I want to tell you a little bit about my story and why I'm now asking you all to take a call to action. The College Race Equity Advocacy Advisory Council, CREAC, was formed back in June 2020. At the time, I had been connected with MNEEP, primarily as many of you are now. I knew that they were doing cool events and meetups in the race equity space, just like this event, which was in alignment with my own values. I'm a first-generation college student and proud Puerto Rican. Woo! I saw a couple other Boricuas here. The highest education my grandparents received was my paternal grandfather, who completed 5th grade back on the island. On my mother's side, my grandmother was not allowed to attend school, as women living in rural parts of the island really was uncommon. It wasn't until she was 50 when she learned to write her first name. My higher education experience began when I was 15 years old, taking classes here at the University of Minnesota in the College in the Schools program, CIS. I later had the opportunity to become a McNair Scholar at the University of St. Thomas, and after graduation, I attended the University of Minnesota's Educational Psychology Doctorate program. I went on later to support the K-12 education system through research and practice, and as Muna said this morning, she had us all say this, right? I am alive, and therefore so are the stories of my ancestors today. When Carlos and Leotawa Dr. John Robert Peterson asked me to join CREAC as co-chair, I honestly was caught off guard, and maybe was still navigating the imposter syndrome and traumas of my own higher education experiences, even with all the support I had. I wasn't working in a higher education institution, but I quickly realized that my own personal experiences, challenges and successes in higher education, and passion for creating a more racially equitable education system were what drove me to step into this role. Since joining the CREAC, I have served as a co-chair as CREAC, contributed to writing bills to advance this work, met with college presidents, institutional leaders, and elected officials, testified at the House, and joined the MNEEP Executive Board, where I now serve on the Executive Committee. I now invite you all to take your own call to action, and we have a couple that I'll put up here, and there's also some on the back of your brochure. So we have multiple QR codes that you can scan there. So just want to share these 5 call to action pieces. And then I've also heard a lot of other call to actions that I've been sharing, that I've written down that I want to share too. So the first is learn more about CREAC, what we do. Easy, because I know Ikram has emailed you all about parking. So hopefully you still have that email and you could respond to Ikram right now and say that you're interested in learning more. We meet monthly to continue these conversations, and there's subgroups of us that meet every other week. Lots of different opportunities to get involved with CREAC. The second opportunity is to learn more about MNEEP's Race Equity Training Center, led by Nan. Raise your hand. We had Nan stand up earlier. And we can partner with you, districts, schools, nonprofit organizations, higher ed leaders, and faculty to provide customized trainings to equip education leaders and advocates with analysis, framing, tools, and insights needed to build your specific system that you have to make it more racially just. Third opportunity, very simple and quiet if you don't like speaking. Become a member, $50 for an individual membership, which gets you access to a curated newsletter put together by our executive director. And there's other levels of membership. The fourth opportunity is to check out the higher ed toolkit that Molly talked about today. That is ever changing, right? We update that based on community input. What are we seeing? What trends, policy changes can we help advance higher education? And then the fifth opportunity is to share out today's discussion. The slides from today are accessible by the QR code on the back. There should be a little sticker circle on the back of that QR code. It's an updated QR code. If you don't have it, stop by the front of the table. There also is the State of Students of Color and American Indian Students report that we've been talking about. Additional copies available at the front. And then what I heard a couple today, I just have been jotting down. Sam invited you to his office. I heard that. I was like, let me write that down. Dr. Fernie talked about reading the truth report, and Commissioner Olson talked about moving beyond simply acknowledging the land we are on and taking action. Dr. Rev, Minerva, you and others have talked about thinking about how our own values and practices are upholding the perpetuation of racial inequities across our education system. Dr. Ferguson talked about equity walks, getting the message out that we all have to succeed, changing hiring practices. Commissioner Olson also talked about advocating for important offices, supporting American Indian students and other students of color. And Dr. Rev, you talked about, you didn't share this, but you shared it with me. Not sure you're right. Moving from rigor to vigor. So pull up the definition of vigor, and it provides a whole new lens. And with that, I would like to introduce Carlos.
I am a really fortunate person. I was telling Representative Mary Frances Clarity, who's here, and she's been here the whole day. Thank you, State Rep, for being with us here today, and thank you for working with us this year with some of the education equity thoughts and ideas and proposals. And I think it was probably less surprising to me and maybe more surprising to you about how far equity can go in the policy world. It's a slug, but thank you for slugging with us and for us. This is, so I was telling Representative Clarity that I'm very fortunate because I think you just witnessed why I'm fortunate. I get to hang out on a regular basis with this amazing community of just loving people who bring their true and most powerful selves with that critical hope, Dr. Ferguson, to the work that I know everyone here is about. So thank you, Rashandra. Thank you, Dr. Pullis, Rev, John. I know I'm going to screw up. Nan, Molly. Oh my God. And of course, Ikram, and so many others. And by the way, is Fernie like not the best moderator you've ever, Man, I want to grow up to be like Fernie. And thank you all for being here. You came from lots of different places here today, and yet the same place. You came from Duluth, from Mankato, from Collegeville, St. Joseph, St. Cloud. I know I'm messing up. Moorhead. You came from private colleges, from our mid-state schools, from the University of Minnesota. You came from nonprofits at the grassroots basis that do advocacy work, that do student voice work. It's incredible. As I was looking at the list today, earlier this morning, the parts of this community. It's incredibly diverse and rich, and I'm enriched, and so I want to thank you for enriching my life today. Policy work, which is a good chunk of what we do. I spent 32 years as a lawmaker doing it, and still continue to be engaged at MNEP with it. And it's like hard work. It really is. You have to, I learned you kind of have to learn to hold your breath for a really long time. Bad things happen to your body when you do that. And so as you do this work, absolutely know that for it to be meaningful, to produce, is going to take a long time. And knowing that, I think it's critically important that you tend to yourselves, you tend to your communities, to your families, that you're very intentional about constantly nurturing yourself. Hopefully today there was nurturing that was happening here, and then just personal ways to do that. I was telling Nikki earlier today that it was kind of fun watching the legislature pass a whole bunch of my bills. It's like they kept dying over at the Senate. And I really celebrated it. I'm so proud of our state for putting forward a good progressive face. At the same time, I also know, as Rev was sharing, with the issue of the $2 billion plus into K-12 and the $600 billion, that you can do a lot of work conventionally that looks like you've made great progress. And as I learned when I shared with the world's best workforce outcomes, nothing's over. You have to stay on that stuff. $2.1 billion just means it's got to be used differently and better, and done with students of color and indigenous students at the center of the use of those appropriations. And so that means we have to keep tending to the fire. So it could almost shoot me if I don't tell you this, but one of the things that she, because I'm using a real somber voice right now, but one of the things she said, Carlos, bring some joy, to the. I think you all brought the joy. There's just no way you can do this work unless there's joy at the heart of it, and I just want to encourage you to embrace that. She shared the story of a student that at one of our student gatherings shared, halfway through or toward the end, that her epiphany was at that moment that she thought she was alone. She thought she was dealing with all the stuff she was dealing with alone. And that she realized that she wasn't alone. That the things she were dealing with weren't about her. They were about systems that create the conditions and create them to evoke that sense of being alone. Because you know what? If you're alone, as powerful as the human individual is, man, it's easy to run you over. You stand together, you got a whole different dynamic. So there's a reason why our students and our communities are meant to feel alone. Today, you all know by watching the news, the DOJ, issued its finding on Minneapolis Police Department, and no surprise here, patterns of, systemic prejudice and racism and harm. There's a reason for that. You isolate communities, you control them. It's just you and one harmful agent. That's different than your community and a set of laws, a set of rules, cultural norms, etc. So her epiphany was, I'm not alone, and it's not about anything wrong with me. It's about a system that makes me feel alone, and a system that, in making me feel alone, tells me I'm not worth it. That's exactly how systemic abuse and power controls individuals. This is serious work. And yet, in that knowledge of not being alone, that epiphany, there was a joy in it. It was like, I'm not alone. I'm in community. I'm with others. I'm strong. There's joy in that. And so I really want you all, I want us all to walk out these doors feeling really good about what we're about here today. Know that it's because we've been about prior to today, and that we're going to be about it tomorrow as well, and that joy is at the center of that. It will sustain you. It will sustain us. It will keep passing that torch forward as we engage in work that's, in many cases going to take a long time. But we can celebrate our victories right now. And key among them is our own sense of self and self-empowerment. So that's what we're about. Come visit us on our website if you're not a member. Become a member. Sign up. You'll hear, from us, as Dr. Pullis said, and we'll continue to find ways to build agendas together and build community together. Ikrem, I almost forgot, but she directed whoever is back there to shine that light right in my face. Oh, Carlos, you got to talk about this thing. So, please go and take the survey, and please provide us with your thoughts and feelings and insights so that we can continue to build on that as we continue to contribute to a race equity and education excellence movement together in this state. So, okay, Fernie, let's see if I get this right. It's deep breath time, It's close those eyes. Just feel where your center is. You're in the room with lots of other folks, and you know that you're in this room. It's both. Take that deep breath in and let that air just go out freely. All right, peace to all of you. Thank you so much for being here today.